Hi, welcome to the Helpful Study Tips and Tricks video focused on supporting students who are on academic probation at CCP. In today's lesson, we will be focusing on learning styles, resources, and strategies that you can utilize as you continue to navigate your time at CCP, especially while on academic probation. Before we jump straight in, I want you to take a moment to ask yourself, how do I learn information the best? When you are in your math class, what is the best way for you to actually learn and retain the information that your instructor is giving you? Or when you're in your English class and you're going through a reading, what is the best way for you to actually learn more about that reading, how to critically think about that information, and then be able to synthesize it in a way for you to write a paper? How do you learn information the best? Take a moment to genuinely and honestly ask yourself that question, because it will be really helpful for you as we continue on throughout this presentation. Many of you may not have ever heard of learning styles, but they are real and they are important, especially as a student navigating college and really trying to make sure that you are being as successful as you possibly can be as you take your classes each and every day. So, learning styles. There are various ways in which we as students learn information. Some of us are more visual learners, meaning that we prefer to learn information through a visual medium. We like to view or create maps, graphs, diagrams, and flowcharts. Or we like to observe some sort of pattern or shapes. We need to see it in order for us to truly be able to take in the information and to retain it. Some of us are auditory learners, meaning that we prefer to learn in an auditory form, where it is heard or spoken. Sometimes this means that we need to say things out loud to ourselves so that we can hear it and ultimately retain it. It could also mean that we listen to lectures that our instructors are giving. And when we hear them say the information, that really helps us to take it in and to retain. Additionally, we may also learn by talking in groups and hearing our classmates be able to discuss their own thoughts and ideas. And then that helps us to then in turn learn the information as well. Some of us are kinesthetic learners, which means we prefer to learn by doing some sort of action. We need to engage in hands-on experience, such as personal experience, practice, examples, simulations, and so on and so forth. But we need to be hands-on. When we think about kinesthetic, it means that we are doing some sort of physical action in order to learn the information. We could also recreate examples. That is another great way to help. And fourth, but not last, there actually are other learning styles besides these four that are here, but these are the main four that we're going to focus on in this video. But the fourth learning style is reading and writing. So writing learners prefer to learn by writing information down or reading the information. We could describe a chart or a diagram by written statements. So whereas a visual learner may actually just benefit from having some sort of map or graph or diagram that is drawn and they can see it in that sort of format, for a reading and writing learner, they actually would need the information that's within that chart or diagram or map to be written down in statements. Reading and writing learners can also take written quizzes. They could create written quizzes for themselves that they ultimately would then do as a way to study. They could also engage with written assignments. So anything where they actually need to read and write the content or the information or certain concepts from the class is one of the best ways for them to actually learn that information. Next, we're going to take a moment to discuss the various resources that you have available to you and how important it is for you to utilize these resources on a daily and or weekly basis in order to be successful at CCP. There are so many resources at your disposal that you can utilize in order to be successful. This is not a full list. These are just a few helpful suggestions that you can utilize on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, as you continue to navigate your time at CCP. There are various resources at CCP that you can utilize. One of the most important is your syllabus, your course syllabus. I strongly encourage each and every one of you to read each of your course syllabi throughout the semester and read it thoroughly. You should be reviewing your assignments pages on Canvas daily. If you haven't already, you should download your Canvas student app along with your Microsoft Outlook app and sign in using your CCP credentials. You should create a Learning Lab account and book appointments directly through that account in order to meet with a tutor. You should be attending professor office hours on a regular basis. You should also be reviewing the final exam schedule early. Sometimes your final exam dates are already listed in your syllabus, and other times you would actually need to go onto the final exam schedule website to be able to locate your specific final exam day and time. Attend counseling department academic workshops. You can connect with classmates and build study groups. This is another great resource for you. Additionally, if applicable, you should visit the library or visit the Center on Disability. Now, outside of CCP, there are various resources that you could also utilize, such as Quizlet, Khan Academy, Grammarly, Purdue OWL, or any sort of external tutor, mentor, or other online resource. Another helpful tip for you to keep in mind is to choose at least one strategy that you can utilize on a regular basis as you continue to navigate school. Here are a few strategies that you could try to use, such as creating a study guide with questions and answers that you've developed personally. Explain the content to someone else as if you were the instructor. Develop examples that relate to your personal experience or experiences. Create a concept map that explains the material in a way that you understand. Eliminate distractions when trying to complete schoolwork. Build an effective routine that helps to hold you accountable and stay on track with your tasks. Chunk your studies. Sometimes maybe you would need to only engage in studying for 30 minutes, and then you take a break for 5 minutes, and then you could come back and study some more for another 30 minutes and rest for 5 minutes. You should also be minimizing multitasking. This can be really beneficial to, again, eliminate distractions and to maintain and maximize the most amount of focus at any given time. And then you should also be utilizing the study cycle. The study cycle is an extremely effective study strategy that you can utilize to be successful in your classes. Step 1 is to preview. Step 2 is to attend class or engage in class. Step 3 is to review. Step 4 is to study. And step 5 is to check. Now let's go a little bit more in depth. During the preview stage, you want to take a look at what will be covered in your lecture before attending class. This is you taking a preview at what's to come. You want to skim the readings and lectures. Really try to focus on the headings of the readings or the titles of the lecture slides. Look at introductions, learning objectives, and summary sections. Combine the skimming, reading, and your participation in class for most effective results. Sometimes the reading just by itself may not be good enough, but if you can combine these strategies together, you can come out with the best outcome. The next stage is to attend class, or as I like to say, be engaged in class. Because for some of you who may be in an online course, online asynchronous course, you may not have an actual class to attend, but you should still be logging into your Canvas page and effectively engaging with the class material. You want to be attentive and you want to be engaged. You want to gain a clear understanding of your instructor's expectations and areas of focus. Always remember the syllabus is a great place to start. You want to gain insight from your instructor and classmates through asking questions and taking part in class discussions. Additionally, you want to take notes in a way that will be useful to you and keep track of questions to ask later. After you've attended or engaged in class, you want to review your notes for a brief period of time and locate any gaps in your understanding of the content. Try explaining the material back to yourself by summarizing key points or asking questions, connecting concepts to real-life examples, and reflecting on the bigger picture. Always remember that repetition of the material equals retention of the material. The next stage is to study. Schedule multiple 30 to 60-minute study sessions with yourself and or others each week for each of your classes. This specific strategy is called distributed practice. Create a specific and realistic goal for each study session to maximize focus and efficiency. An example or a sample process that you could use when studying is to either work on practice problems or creating a concept map, then explain those concepts to yourself out loud. This could be really, really helpful for our auditory learners. Then take a break. As I mentioned before, that idea of chunking, 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off. Take a break. And then afterwards, reward yourself at the end of the study session to help increase dopamine levels and to ultimately give your brain a moment to relax after intense studying. The last stage of the study cycle is to check. Here's another moment where you can ask yourself a question. Is this plan working, or do I need to change my technique? Take a step back on a regular basis from the current routine that you've established and check in with yourself to make sure that the plan is working. You could practice self-testing regularly, discuss course content with classmates, or you could check in with course learning objectives often. These are all different ways that you can check in with yourself to make sure that the technique and the plan that you've developed earlier on in the semester is still holding strong at the point of the semester you're in currently. Other sample check-in questions that you could ask yourself, or as we may call it, metacognitive questions, are: does this answer make sense given the information provided? What strategy did I use to solve this problem that was helpful? How does this information conflict with my prior understanding? How does this information relate to what we learned last week? What's confusing about this topic? What are the relationships between these two concepts? What conclusion can I make? Always be sure to check in with yourself. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to view this helpful study tips and tricks video for students who are on academic probation. Feel free to scan this QR code in order to connect with a counselor. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram.